We have a lot to discuss on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. Earlier today, CENTCOM announced that it would be further attacking Iran. This is the 10th straight day of Donald Trump's recent escalation, which has completely backfired yet again on Donald Trump and the United States. Iran has struck back hard at U.S. bases in the neighboring Arab nations. At least 3 U.S. service members have been killed, perhaps more. At least 100 service members recently, and I'm talking about just in the past several days, have been injured. But we believe that that number is actually understating the full extent of what's taken place. Multiple U.S. bases, equipment has been destroyed. We'll cover what's going on there. Now, as Donald Trump's catastrophic war is also wreaking havoc on our economy here in the United States, Donald Trump ups the ante last week, announcing essentially across the board 25% tariffs on Brazil. And then earlier today, the Trump regime announced 50% tariffs on imports from Canada. And these are tariffs on kind of most Canadian products as well. And the Trump regime says we're doing this because Canada has responded to the U.S. initial tariffs by retaliating against the United States. So the predatory Trump regime is angry because Canada wouldn't just take Donald Trump's bullying. So now Donald Trump is doing a 50% very serious tariffs against Canada. That was announced, and that's only going to further harm our economy here in the United States. It will certainly hurt Canada. It's mutually assured destruction. Not for Donald Trump, though, who gets richer and richer with all of the inside trading that he does. 21,000 stock trades, as you now know, crypto deals and other shady deals, creates the dip and buys his own dips. Absolutely disgusting behavior there. Meanwhile, manufacturing jobs, we're now seeing some of the data come out even more clear. About 75,000, as Steve Ratner says, 75,000 manufacturing jobs lost since the beginning of this Trump regime, as compared to former President Biden, who created over 625,000 manufacturing jobs. Our economy here in the United States is in absolute shambles. The national debt is approaching $40 trillion, and the Trump regime keeps on adding on debt. So no wonder when Donald Trump attended the World Cup and wanted to make it about himself, he was booed mercilessly at the World Cup. He tried to get on stage with Spain. By the way, congratulations to Spain for winning. And the team from Spain was like, can we get this guy off the stage? Like, what in the world is he even doing here? Trump turning that into some grotesque thing, but congratulations to Spain. We got a lot to discuss on this episode. Brett and Jordy, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Good to see you, Ben. Good to see you, Jordy. Good to see you, Midas Mighty. I'm finally back after being away for a little bit. Got to see Jordy. It was a whole lot of fun. Really, really good time. And also, I want to start off by just thanking everybody once again for the incredible support of WTF America. That's our new book, the first book we ever wrote, poured our heart and soul into this. Make sure you go check it out. There's a link in the description to this video, and there's a QR code right above my head that you could go and scan with your phone. It's pretty cool to do the scans also, and it's in a handful of bookstores right now and coming to more. And yes, there's the the ebook copies for those who do the ebooks, and I'm just thrilled. I mean, I'll give you a little well, not so much a secret, but an exciting milestone for you right now. #1 book in its category right now of all the books, and so I am so grateful for that. That's because you're stepping up, and I think we're really going to shock the entire kind of publishing world with this one and show what an independent operation and what the Midas Mighty could do. And I think that's really going to make a statement. And let's keep it going. Jordy, what's the latest?
Brothers, Midas Mighty, I echo Brett's sentiments. I'm excited to get into today's show. I know we have a ton to cover. So with that, Benji, where are we starting off with today, big bro?
Yeah, Donald Trump's personal stenographer who masquerades as a reporter, Barack Ravid, posted the following message before CENTCOM engaged in what has been now its 10th day in a row of this massive escalation in Iran, where the Trump regime committing all of these war crimes, blowing up bridges, blowing up desalination facilities, blowing up areas near cancer hospitals, killing lots of civilians in Iran. This is what Barack Ravid says, though. A senior American official tells me about talks for a possible ceasefire with Iran. Right now, President Trump is focused on making Iran pay for breaching the Memorandum of Understanding and for continuing its terrorist acts in the Strait of Hormuz. In addition, the president will make Iran pay for killing the American soldiers in Jordan. Devastating strikes will continue until the president decides otherwise. But the talks between us and Iran are ongoing. Oh God, the talks are ongoing. You're going to make them pay. You're going to blame them for the breach of the MOU, which the Trump regime immediately started breaching once Donald Trump held up the document in Versailles. Donald Trump has exposed our troops in the region to a predictable response by Iran after the Trump regime started attacking desalination facilities and other civilian infrastructure in Iran, and they're attacking military infrastructure in Iran. But the Trump regime's escalation of the war in Iran has been significant. Iran warned that it was going to respond, and Iran has responded, hitting U.S. bases in the surrounding Arab nations. And one of the things we've been warning about back in April is that the United States ran through a lot of its munitions, a lot of its PAC-3 Patriot interceptors, THAAD interceptors, which cost about $4 to $5 million each interceptor. And remember how when the war started, you would see like dozens of the interceptors going up to try to shoot down one Shahed drone rather than use a drone interceptor, or they would all be being utilized to shoot down, a ballistic missile like one. Which is much cheaper. I mean, the Shahed drones are like $20. U.S. was using $5 million interceptors to try to shoot down a $1,000 drone. And the ballistic missiles that Iran uses are deadly, are powerful, and are much cheaper than the interceptors used to try to shoot it down. And so these Arab nations where the U.S. has bases, they have very weak defense systems. And Iran realized that. Iran realized that Israel is being protected most by the United States with the Iron Dome. And so what Iran has done strategically is said, we're not going to hit Israel yet or right now. Instead, we're going to expose that the U.S. security umbrella promised to the Arab nations is very weak, especially as compared to the security umbrella given to Netanyahu and given to Israel, and we'll strike the bases. And so Iran has not only realized that the U.S. has run out of a lot of munitions protecting the Arab nation bases where the U.S. has these bases, but also Iran has studied the way the interceptors worked during the earlier rounds of war back in March and April, and Iran has been able to figure out how its ballistics can avoid the U.S. interceptors. And so we've been seeing these videos of Iran's ballistic missiles and drones striking with a high degree of efficiency. And then we've been studying the satellite footage. Now, the Trump regime has ordered that any company in the United States that puts out the satellite image basically stop producing any of the images of the region. There's Planet Labs and a few other groups that do that. Think about that by itself, okay? Like you're covering that up. So a lot of the images come from Chinese satellite imagery and other international companies because the Trump regime can't shut them down. And every day now, since Trump has once again began this escalation, and now we're on day 10 of the kind of massive escalation that Trump begun and Iran's response, I've been reporting on showing you the satellite images of what's going on in Jordan. There's various bases there, which from the footage are like obliterated. And CENTCOM would put out statements like, yeah, nothing happened. Everything is okay. Then I would show you some of the photos of Erbil, Iraq, or I'd show you photos of Bahrain, or I'd show you photos of Al Udeid in Qatar, of certain areas in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait. And I would say, this looks pretty bad, by the way, and the Trump regime would never put out any information. And so now we're learning at a minimum, this is what CBS is saying, which I believe is downplaying it. At a minimum, 100 troops have been in 100 U.S. service members have been injured in the past month. But remember, Trump's massive escalation is only 10 days. So that's about 10 troops every day on average right now. And since that 10 days, we have at least 3 service members in Jordan were killed. I think a 4th in Iraq was killed. And the Trump regime is saying, working near a Shahed drone that fell and the drone exploded when they were trying to do a controlled detonation of the Iranian drone. And it was somebody nearby who got killed. So that's what we know about. That's in 10 days. And as Trump's hit desalination facilities in Iran, Iran hit the desalination facility in Kuwait. That's how they get their water in the Middle East, because there's no water supplies. So these desalination facilities is what allows them to get water. And Iran's controlled the Strait of Hormuz. It's, the U.S. tried to get out other ships today, like a Greek ship, I believe, that had Saudi oil on it. That was hit and struck down. Iran keeps striking any ships. Iran's controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And then in Yemen, the Houthis, who are allied with Iran, they announced that they're shutting down, as I said, I've been predicting, the Bab el-Mandab Strait as it relates to any Saudi Arabian ships as well. And so Saudi ships being blocked out of the Strait of Hormuz and blocked out of the Bab el-Mandab Strait in the Red Sea. And I could keep going on and on, but that pretty much brings us to where we are right now. And Trump's view, and I'll toss it to you, Brett and Jordy, if we just keep bombing them more, then they're going to want to just bomb them more, and they're going to want to do a deal. No, you bomb them more, and Iran has been very carefully climbing the escalatory ladder, responding. No, Iran will respond. They're not going to want to do a deal. And when we talk later in this show about Donald Trump's view with Canada, just tariff them more, and they will stop retaliating. That'll bring them down to their knees. It's predator behavior. It's war criminal behavior. It's Epstein class behavior. Brett, Jordy.
And not to mention the contradictions of the strategy. I mean, at this point, Donald Trump has already shown his cards. A few weeks ago, when Donald Trump had stopped the fighting for a moment, he revealed to the entire world that we were running incredibly low on oil and were potentially going, or likely to hit like a global depression in just a few weeks if he kept the war going. Now he is indeed keeping the war going. And we continue to see more reporting that there's this very contradictory strategy at play where Donald Trump wants to escalate and escalate and escalate. However, the actual military experts and the actual heads of the military are warning that we simply don't have the capacity to keep this going. We don't have the munitions to keep this going. We don't have the defenses to keep this going. And so it's creating this incredibly dangerous situation. I'll read you just a bit of this reporting that was in the Washington Post that paints this very sobering picture of the growing costs of the war. I mean, they have American officials warning that the U.S. military is absorbing such heavy damage while facing mounting constraints if the fighting escalates further. And we know that that's exactly what Donald Trump wants to do. And we've seen these military installations hit. We've seen Black Hawk helicopters damaged. We've seen barracks get destroyed by Iranian ballistic missiles, munitions and air defense stockpiles depleted. We are getting beat up across the board, a soldier told the Washington Post. Yet despite all of that, Donald Trump wants to keep escalating. And maybe it's out of desperation. Maybe it's we're running low, so let's try to hit him as hard as we can right now and try to do what we can in this moment. But it really is a failing strategy. And I think you see even the U.S. military through these leaks to the Washington Post right now, trying to tell them, like trying to get the message out, like we're in trouble, people, we're in trouble if Donald Trump continues down the road that he is going right now. And we're just seeing the devastation add up. We're seeing the American soldiers die in vain. It is absolutely appalling to me to see these brave brave men and women who are stationed out there get killed for Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu's war. The way Donald Trump treats their deaths to me is so incredibly callous as well. Like, there were at least 3 U.S. soldiers who died over the weekend, and Donald Trump, when he speaks about them, he says something like, "Oh yeah, there were 2 soldiers who died. Yeah, I guess there's a third or something as well, maybe." Like, the way he just throws it out so callously like that, it really just shows he doesn't care. And then there's also the human toll that's happening in Iran. I mean, people forget whenever we do these bombing campaigns every night, we're bombing Iranian civilians as well. It's not just military installations. We're bombing in highly populated areas. And the latest counts is that somewhere around, I think it's like 1,700 Iranian civilians. That's, but before you get to anyone in the military, but civilians have been killed by the United States. What do you think that does to the people in Iran? Every time we kill more and more Iranian civilians, it hardens their resolve and makes them want to support the regime more. It has the opposite effect of the intended objectives of the war. That's what we're seeing play out right now.
Exactly, B. Look, I sit here, and it's not to be like an "I told you so" type of moment, because I don't believe in that. What's the point in that? But just like when we report on Donald Trump's incompetence and that it's going to get more soldiers killed, it's because Donald Trump's incompetence is going to get more soldiers killed. Every day Donald Trump remains the commander-in-chief, we are less safe as Americans, and we're just further and further away from actually ending the war with Iran. I look at the data, and the data tells me that this raging lunatic president of ours, who actually has no idea how to put out the fire that he started. And by the way, why did he even start the fire? Can we even get an answer on that? Open the strait. The strait was open, Donald. They're nuclear facilities. You've told us they've been totally eviscerated. Why are we still there? Regime change. You said that they changed the regime. What are we doing and why? And it's just, again, it comes from a very human standpoint. Democrat, Republican, I don't care about political party. That's boring. Humanity. Donald Trump's incompetence is going to get our troops killed. His incompetence is going to get our troops killed. It's an infuriating thing as you see MAGA and the Republican Party wrap themselves in the American flag and just so bastardize our country and make light of the deaths of these soldiers. One death is too many. And by the way, while we're on the topic of numbers here, I think the Trump regime formally acknowledges that it's 17 or 18 soldiers. Again, I want to emphasize, 1 soldier is too many. But I feel like the number that's coming out is so intentionally vague. I've seen multiple sources report different things, especially on the corporate media front, as far as what the number actually is or isn't. And again, it's just, in my opinion and belief here too, that the numbers that the Trump regime is willing to acknowledge, you could probably multiply that by 3 or 4 if that's what they're comfortable telling the American people right now. If those numbers are what they're fessing up to, because we know that these bases have been hit. We know the toll that this has already taken on our troops. And you know that you can never trust the information really that's coming out of the Trump regime, especially during times of war. It's an infuriating thing that's all playing out because I just feel like we're being gaslit, and again, in a very dehumanizing way.
I just want what we're showing on the screen for our audio listeners and for our viewers who may not know what we're showing. We're showing at least 24 containerized living units housing U.S. troops at that base in Jordan that were completely destroyed by Iranian strikes, right? Those containerized units, almost think right there like the makeshift kind of garbage trucks, those big container trucks that are turned into housing units that are basically Trump putting our troops as these kind of just sitting targets at this point that are, the only decision from Iran at this point, honestly, is they could probably destroy all of it if they wanted to. And Iran just figures, well, we need to climb the escalatory ladder. And I think they have to show a little restraint because they don't want to have a strike that's just so big, right? Which they could do at any moment right now if they wanted to. That would then kind of galvanize the sentiment against them. So I think Iran is also making a strategic decision rather than wipe all of them out, just use 8, salvos of like 8 to 12 ballistics. Like that's what Iran's using. It's not like they're doing 300, 400 ballistic barrages. Like they're doing 8 to 12 and like 80% of them get through, and the interceptors only strike down like 2 of them. And here's the thing too, and people don't remember a lot of this history. Back in 2024, when Iran struck Israel and did a 300, 400 strike barrage, there was kind of a media, like people like, what, I didn't remember that happening, right? No, in 2024, Iran struck Israel. There was like a media blackout on it, both in Israel and the US. And it was all reported like, Iran completely failed. They didn't know what they're doing. Israel struck all of the Iranian ballistics. It was true that the Iron Dome struck a lot of it, but a lot of the Iranian ballistics actually got through. Also, in the initial response to the 12-day war back in June, same thing. Also, if you studied what happened early on in this war, Iran's ballistics are effective. There's a reason why Putin uses Iran and the Shahid drones and the ballistics and Iran engineering to fuel that machine. Iran is able to create, with their engineering, very strong weapons. So it's not me trying to like glaze them. And you have to understand and have a realistic perspective of what we're dealing with. And the Trump regime wants to act like we've obliterated them, we've destroyed them, they don't exist, none of it happens. And then you'll hear about our soldiers getting killed, and lots of Americans are like, well, how did that happen? We were told, how did they do that? Because Trump's lying about everything. And the very premise right now, that we'll keep on bombing them, and then they're going to be like, oh, you've bombed us, now we want to do a deal, versus we bomb them, they respond, this thing escalates more and more and more into a full-fledged regional war. And also, let's not ignore that Donald Trump's the person who said on day one he would bring peace to Ukraine and Russia, that Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Trump said, I'd be able to solve it on day one. I have a great relationship with Putin, and Zelensky listens to me. And what we've been seeing, as I've been following, and I've been covering both, you've got the Middle East on fire right now in missiles, Arab nations being hit, the U.S. striking Iran. You have literally the Middle East has been lit up on fire right now. And then I look at what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine with its drones striking deeper and deeper in Russia, most recently hitting the Wildberry logistical facility right outside Moscow, which looked like an apocalypse when you saw the skies and what it looked like. And then Russia responds, strikes Ukraine really hard. The skies above Ukraine look like a hellish apocalypse as well. And so you've got all of this now happening. And then you now look at the Red Sea, where the Houthis align. We're showing images of what it looks like in Kyiv. We're showing, what it also looked like, in Russia over Moscow. And then now in the Red Sea, you have the Houthis, and they're working, in in Africa, in Somalia, and groups that are aligned there to shut down, both sides of the Red Sea. And so you have and this isn't me being hyperbolic, this is a global scale war right now where the entire world is pretty much engaged in a war. You can call it whatever you want, but I think that accurately describes. But I know you've got points, Jordy, you've got points. Why don't we take our first quick break of the show? When we come back, I do want to talk about Donald Trump getting booed at the World Cup as he tried to hog attention for himself. I want to talk about a lot of domestic issues, things that are happening right now here in the United States, as some of the latest polling for Trump has his approval worse than Nixon when Nixon resigned. Amongst independents. I want to remind everybody about WTF America. Make sure you get your copy, pre-order it right now. And then we're going to do a behind the scenes on Patreon. Why don't we do that? I want to make an apology to all of our Patreon supporters. We've been spending so much time on this book that I literally haven't slept all that much. We've been working so hard on the book, but what we're going to do to try to make up for it on Patreon, subscribe to the MeidasTouch Patreon, and what we'll do there is we'll do a behind the scenes. We'll do a behind the scenes about what's in the book, what to be expected in the book. So subscribe to the MeidasTouch on Patreon, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. One more time. First quick break of the show. We'll be right back after this.
If a genie gave me 3 wishes, I would use all of my wishes to wish for my cat to live forever. But since genies don't exist, as far as I know, I feed my cat Smalls. Smalls is fresh, human-grade cat food that does so much more than just feed your cat. It helps them live a full, healthy life. Most cat food out there, it's made with like these meat products and cheap fillers and artificial ingredients, basically stuff that isn't great for your cat. Big Pet Food does this because it's cheaper to make. But what they save on cost, your cat pays for with their health. Smalls is different. Their fresh recipes are made with at least 80% animal protein, and they're gently cooked to retain all their nutrients and flavor. They never add fillers or artificial ingredients, and their food is so healthy that 88% of cat parents say that after feeding their cats Smalls, their cats have better digestion, a softer and shinier coat, and more energy to play, because it's actually good for cats. Your cat's health and longevity starts with what they eat. Try Smalls and get 60% off your cat's first order, plus free shipping and free treats for life when you go to smalls.com/Meidas. One last time, that's 60% off your first order plus free shipping and free treats for life when you head to smalls.com/Meidas.
If you're looking to feel your best this summer, don't just think skin deep, think cell deep. That's one of the reasons I like Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet. It gives you a structured, science-backed way to target fat loss, support lean muscle, and help reset your metabolism all in just 5 days. What I like is that everything is prepackaged for you, so you get plant-based soups, snacks, and beverages labeled by day, so there's no guesswork, meal prep, or planning. It's designed to nourish your body while keeping it in a fasting state to support cellular rejuvenation. No matter the season, when I'm craving a real reset, Prolon is the nutrition program that works for me. It's convenient, backed by decades of scientific research, and it delivers real results. Ready for your own reset for a limited time? Prolon is offering Meidas listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/Meidas. That's prolonlife.com/MEIDAS to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. Again, that's prolonlife.com/Meidas, prolonlife.com/MEIDAS to get 15% off site-wide, plus your $40 bonus gift.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next, big bro?
I did a lot of speaking there, Brett. You know, I often get asked, why do I do a lot of coverage on this? It's shocking to me. One, it's existential. And what's also kind of shocking to me is when I see just the lack of international media does a very good job on it. But just the lack of consistent coverage on what's happening in the war. And I'm not to suggest that it's not like the CNNs that don't cover it. I mean, but they used to, when there were wars like this, they would have people there every day. That's what we need around the clock coverage. We need to know what's really going on in this. And thankfully, with the ability of open source intelligence technology, with people taking cell phone footage, with the satellites and the surveillance footage, you know, we have the capabilities to do that. It's just, I don't see a lot of this coverage out there. You know, I don't see any of the analysis of the surveillance, you know, amongst at least American corporate media. So that's why I emphasize it a lot. Instead, what you hear, and I'll show you some of these clips, is, you know, Donald Trump and his sound bites about, you know, here's why, you know. And look, if you want to play these clips, you just have to give them the right context. You have to be able to fact check them and call it out, and don't just show this as here's what he said, here's what we're reporting on. So the reporter asks a good question. So you said the war would be 4 to 5 weeks. So what's going on? Not a bad question. But then when he kind of rambles and rants and raves, you have to then respond, or editorially, you have to address it. Here, let me just play you this clip.
Well, you keep hitting me. This is a far bigger job that we're doing. We were doing a little job of stopping them from having a certain capability. Now we're just ending it. So it's really not the same thing. What we're doing now is we're ending any chance where they could have a nuclear missile. If you look at it, after a week and a half, not 4 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks, we stop them from probably, but I don't want to have the word probably. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Not even speaking in complete sentences. Those words didn't form coherent sentences. We were doing a little job then. That's what you considered the war, a little job. And now we're ending it. But I don't want to say the word probably. All right, everybody, see you later. The hell does it even mean? And then he's asked, he's then asked another question. And he says, Iran lost everything. They lost everything, almost militarily. They're basically done. They're basically gone. And he repeats this over and over again. Here, play this.
Well, we feel very badly, but those great people, those great patriots were out there fighting that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran has been very, very badly damaged. They've lost everything almost militarily. They've got very little left. They've got some missiles. They've got some drones. They've got some manufacturing ability, not much. We control the Strait. They don't control anything. So we'll see what happens. But we hit them very hard again tonight. And we did that in honor of the probably three. It's probably three as opposed to two great patriots.
What a sick and disgusting, evil human being he is. I mean, to say we did it in honor of them. We did it in honor of them. What? We control the Strait of Hormuz. No, we don't. By the way, there was another tanker off the coast of Oman that was just hit, before we went live, in addition to the one that had the Saudi oil. We don't control the Strait of Hormuz. And these people have names, by the way. Private Isabella Gonzalez, 19 years old. She's from Texas. First Lieutenant Tyler Freehand, 25, of Hawaii. There was another individual whose body parts, whose remains were recently found. That other person has not been identified. Then somebody in Iraq who was killed when there was a drone that had a controlled detonation, is what they're saying. That's what we know about. We did it in honor. I mean, you have a 5-time draft dodging person who's called our troops suckers and losers, saying that that these patriots live their lives 19 years, 25 years, cut short because of Donald Trump's inability to do a deal, his jealousy of Obama, that Obama did an actual, non-nuclear deal. And because we have a deranged psychopath, our troops are being killed.
Yeah, none of these people had to die. None of these Americans had to die. None of these Iranians had to die, quite frankly. This is all because of Donald Trump's jealousy with Barack Obama. Had he just stayed with the JCPOA, we'd be probably in a pretty good place right now in terms of Iran not pursuing a nuclear program, in terms of the Strait of Hormuz being open. And then if Donald Trump wanted to pursue some actual deal and diplomacy, he could have done that. And he could have been held as a hero for doing something like that, for figuring out a way to open up trade and to secure the region. But instead, he has put his back up against the wall. He is cornered right now, and the entire region is less safe for it. If this is to make Israel more safe, you have made Israel less safe, and you've made more people more angry at Israel in the process. If this is to secure the Middle East and our partners and our allies, whether it's Saudi Arabia or whoever else, you have made life less safe for the people in those countries, because they are now the targets, because the United States is using their bases and their resources. And so this right now is just a catastrophe for so many people. And I don't think people fully understand the extent to which the American people are propagandized, not only by Donald Trump, but by our media. And, I know we'll take shots at, the CNNs and those sorts of stations in the world. And it's really just the imbalance that you see, though, right? Because you have those channels that really kind of both sides everything and give credence to Donald Trump's own words. Then you have the Newsmax, the OAN, the Fox, that are just straight state regime television. And then you have this army of influencers and the oligarchs who pump them up to just constantly stoke division and constantly spread lies that end up reaching people. And then people start thinking that, oh, maybe we do control the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe we do have the upper hand. Maybe, in fact, Iran is on its last legs right now. And all that does is it creates an even more dangerous situation, because in a wartime scenario, you have to be working with actual data. And if Donald Trump is living in fantasy land where Iran doesn't have any way to defend themselves or any way to attack the United States or our soldiers, you get people who are like, what WTF happened here? What WTF is going on? And so that's why we've been seeing these comments now. And honestly, these people really piss me off in such a major way. You know, the propagandists who have to play stupid with everything that happens. And I'll show you an example right here, right? There's this guy, Matt Van Swoll. He's one of the biggest offenders right on the internet. He's like a Twitter influencer for MAGA. You know, this guy, he's just a total liar. During the Biden administration, you know, he pretended that he was like a former Democrat who saw the light, and every day it'd be World War III is coming, World War III is coming. And so this guy posts the other day, July 18th, he says, I'm confused. The USA has the most powerful military on earth. We bombed the hell out of Iran for 4 months. Trump says their Air Force, Navy, and nearly all their missile capabilities are destroyed. So how is Iran still capable of hitting U.S. bases right now? How indeed? Well, maybe I'm going to posit a simple theory for you, Matt. Maybe Donald Trump lied. How about that? But you know what? You know that, Matt, because you're a liar yourself, and you stoke this division. You stoke the disinformation. You are one of these disinformation centers that poisons the American people. And it's not only you. There's a whole network of it. You're one of the Twitter ones, but of course they're on television as well. We've seen Maria Bartiromo on Fox also parroting a very similar...
I don't understand it.
Is that your Bartiromo?
I don't understand how Iran has the capabilities to fight this way. The U.S. obliterated Iran's military. The president continues to reiterate it, everybody. I don't know.
That's an A+ impression.
That's Maria Bartiromo. That's an actual quote from Maria Bartiromo. I think it's Ben as Elmer. I think it's Ben as Elmer Fudd doing Maria Bartiromo, but nevertheless, a good impression. But in all seriousness, that's a real comment that she made. I don't understand how Iran has the capabilities to fight this way. Didn't Trump say the U.S. obliterated Iran's military? He keeps saying, yeah, he lied. He's a liar. But once again, you're part of this Fox state regime media apparatus. You lie to everybody out there about what's going on. And by the time this comes back to the American people, a lot of people are just confused. They don't know the real data. They don't know what's going on because they're getting fed this bullshit from every direction. And I think that is such a major issue right now. It's one of the big things that we are pushing back against. But when you see it in all these directions, you really see what we're up against, right? And how they never take responsibility. Like I said, during the Biden administration, every day, World War III, run on the banks. Yeah, this happened, that happened. There was a news aliens in New Jersey. Remember there was aliens in New Jersey for 2 weeks. That was like the lead headline. What are these aliens doing? And they ran with this crap every single day. But let me tell you, I would take the sleepiness of the Biden administration any day over the chaos of this Trump administration. I know people don't like to, defend Biden these days. They think it's like, I don't know, bad politically, or that people don't agree with them. But Biden did a whole lot of good things every day. I remember the news hearing about Biden signed the bipartisan infrastructure law. Biden signed the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. He did the COVID recovery. He was getting a coalition together in NATO to increase the size of NATO, get more countries in NATO, and protect Ukraine. These were the kind of stories that we would hear about every day under the Biden administration, while all of these liars would pump out lie until enough people believed that was the case, till enough people believed that there was chaos, till enough people believed that it was Biden's administration that was weaponizing the Justice Department and that Donald Trump is the one just setting things right. It's all such bullshit being funneled at people, and Americans are some of the most propagandized people in the entire world, but they don't realize it because I think a lot of people think they have the illusion of choice, yet they're being fed this bullshit every day from all these sources.
And that's what's frustrating to me. Like I believe strongly in a strong fourth estate. I think that's vital to this country succeeding or in an effort to succeed and move forward here. But under the Biden presidency, it just felt like corporate media always had the knives out. When's he going to slip up? Okay, over here. Under the Donald Trump administration, or the Donald Trump regime, Trump is continuously slipping up. His sons are profiting from the office of the presidency in plain sight. And what corporate media is like, I'm full. Knives down. I'm full. I don't need to eat anymore. No, it's all good. We'll pick this up later on. It's like that question to Trump about why are we still in this war? It's a fair and legitimate question. Great job. When Trump then says we own the strait, we totally control the strait. How about a follow-up question? Excuse me. No, you don't, dude. But it's crickets. It's crickets. And that's the frustrating part to me, because to me, it just feels like, oh, the corporate media game, they're showing their cards. I know what they're trying to do here. They're just trying to, they're going to let them, mulligan on this one, Trump. All good. You'll still invite me to I could be invited and ask you questions again on Air Force One. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to follow up, sir. No, thank you. Okay, Kurt. Guys, apparently we have the strait now, when all the information out there points to the opposite. Time and time again. And at the root of it, like, if the lies weren't so stupid, they would be funny. But again, our troops are dying. We showed the pictures of those folks. I mean, 25 and 19 years old. That is so,
Johnny,
that's so young. That
Johnny.
Is so young. A life cut short. And they don't give a damn. They don't give a damn.
Johnny, Mom Danny wants to babysit your children, Johnny. Did you know that Zoran Mom Danny in New York, the communist, you know what he's trying to do? He wants to babysit your kids, Jordy. Nothing good happens when the Mamdani and the communists babysit your children. That's what we need to be outraged with, not Donald Trump literally destroying the freaking economy. Inflation surging, never-ending wars, taking away your healthcare, quite literally killing you right now. No, it's Zoran Mamdani, everybody. This is what and they are pushing the shit out of messages like this. And I did a whole video on it this morning. You've got MAGA Mike Johnson out there in Iowa talking about, the communists are coming. This is a existential spiritual battle between, we've never been in a situation in our country like this before. It's spiritual. It's scripture. It's God. It's God. It's the others who are very godless right now. First, I want to show you what they're saying on state regime media. It wasn't Maria Bartiromo, but she did do a segment on this as well. This is like, while all of these things are happening in the world right now, right? And on state regime media, they're attacking Zoran Mamdani for like proposing a parents' night out. Oh my God. Do you know what happens on parents' nights out? Here, let's play this first clip.
Let's start off in New York City, where Mayor Zoran Mamdani wants to babysit your kids. Next month, the city's Parks Department is set to host a Parents' Night Out, where New Yorkers can drop off their kids at a city rec center for free babysitting. What could possibly go wrong? Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributor Joe Concha. I'm assuming from that look on your face, you're not going to be dropping your kids off with Zoran Mamdani.
No, Charlie, you've met my kids. I mean, would you trust your child or children with a total stranger? I mean, what the fresh hell is this? Hey, honey, let's go bowling tonight and leave the kids with Kami Kindergarten.
Let's go bring him with. I mean, and
it's such an evil network, right? It's such an evil network. And they'll do that, by the way, by any policy that could possibly help people, whether it's paid maternity leave, whether it's universal health care. They will do that with any policy, universal pre-K. They will try to make some sort of sick and twisted angle. And the fact that they go into some like weird kind of like, what's he going to do with your kids sort of thing also kind of, I think is very projection.
Like the moment, by the way, like the idea of babysitting school, and that's not to suggest that, like, of course, sadly and sickly, we know from the Epstein files that Donald Trump is, I think that's what they're implying, like, that Donald Trump is covering up, that there are bad people in this world. But your first idea of a parent's night out is what they're implying is like, that's how you think this parent's night out, like, that's your view of parent's night out is. And then even the way he speaks, he's like, next up in the city, Zoran Mamdani. I mean, even the way they like talk, like, I don't even know what's happening with this channel. I mean, creating drama out of this thing. They want to babysit your kids. Joe Concha. And then the Concha guy's like, I'm judging by your face, Concha. You don't like this. what in the commie hell is this? I'm like, what world are you people freaking living in right now? Because the world that I'm living in right now, Donald Trump has taken away health care from millions of Americans, and millions more will lose their health care after the midterms because the way that disastrous budget bill phases in, it mostly hits after the midterms as well. I'm living in a world where inflation is surging right now, where Trump's in a never-ending war right now, where people can't afford anything right now. That's the world that I'm living in. And they point to what Mamdani's doing in New York, by all accounts, as Zoran is their evil archetype of what he's doing in New York City right now, working in a very productive way with the governor of New York to actually deliver things and bring things to people in a very kind of stable, predictable, orderly way. Frankly, if we only had that at a national level where people were fighting for the American people, not fighting the American people and taking things from American people and using the government as a tool of division. And let me just share this with you. I mean, this was MAGA Mike's speech. You could play any of them. Do we have any of MAGA Mike? And we don't have MAGA Mike. It's just MAGA Mike out there. And MAGA Mike just says, we're in an existential, spiritual battle right now, and that's really what's against the Marxists and against the communists right now. And also, I just want to say one thing, though. Yeah, that's it right there. And I just want to say one thing also, before we go to break too, because I want to talk a little bit about the World Cup. With everything that's going on in this country, with the fact that unless you're a rich right-wing oligarch or billionaire or a decamillionaire, you're struggling and you're suffering in this country. Debt is surging, 39.5 trillion, and it's only going to get higher, while the Trump regime wants part of their Ponzi scheme reconciliation 3.0, more hundreds of billions of dollars to go to the military industrial complex, in addition to another over $1.34 trillion in addition to go to the Defense Department, while they take away critical services for the American people. While the American people are struggling, you have the Trump family posing for group photos at the World Cup, wearing their finest attire, of course. And then you have the Trump family all there, group photos, smiles. Everybody's doing amazing in the Trump family. You had weirdo Giuliani's kid out there, there's the photo right there, saying, "Praise be to Donald. The World Cup would not have happened without Donald Trump." Really, it existed and did great in spite of Donald Trump being weird and being deranged. And every time he touched it, it wasn't good. And when he just left it alone, it was great. And that's kind of a broader lesson also. Just stay the hell away. The American people are on their own, by and large, scrappy, caring, empathetic. It's when you inject the Trump and the this and the that, that's when it makes it deranged and weird and harmful. So, Brett, I know you want to say something.
Well, let me just say this also, and I'm going to take the same line, that you went with, speaking about, all that stuff that's going on, right? With all of this going on, you have the Trump family out there posing for photos at the FIFA World Cup, right? And all this stuff. Let me now aim this a little differently. While all this is going on out there, you have the Democratic Party, who is approaching a midterm that should be an absolute layup for them, deciding that now is a good time to form a circular firing squad and to try to destroy each other. Can I just say, what the hell are all of you doing? What is wrong with these consultants? What is wrong with all these various factions? Can you understand right now that it is an existential moment and we are dealing with an actual authoritarian threat that threatens to destroy the United States of America and our democracy for good? And you are the people, fortunately or unfortunately, who are there right now to hold the line. And every time I look at these people, they are all fighting each other rather than honing their aim aiming at the person in charge who is making everybody's life miserable, who is stringing us along on these illegal wars. There is so much for people to be messaging about every single day. There are so many issues the American people are going through right now. There are so many things the American people need, whether that is healthcare for all, whether that is a way to take care of their kids, whether that is a way to pay for college, to afford their groceries. I don't think they care about your stupid little factions. I don't think they care about your little civil war and all your little sideshows that are going on. Just focus on the people. The Republicans, Trump, MAGA, they are going to label you whatever they're going to label you, no matter what. They will call you communists or socialists or Antifa or whatever. Focus on delivering for the people. I promise you, the people that I speak to who aren't so glued into politics like all of us, they don't go around speaking in political lingo. They don't go around thinking, oh, I'm left or I'm right or I'm this or I'm that. They just want people who are going to fight for them. And I think that's why when you see these inspiring figures who come up and go out there and are able to gather these large crowds, I think the through line in all of them is that they are speaking to people's frustrations about what they are going through right now, the problems in their life. So don't lose track of those problems in order to take your own little personal gripes out on each other. I'm no Democratic strategist. Frankly, whatever you guys want to do, you're going to do, right? But that's going to be my advice because I care about the people and I want people who are going to fight for the people in our government.
It reminds me why I hate politics so much and why I love people, though, because the people are speaking very loudly and clearly about what the problems are out there and how they want fighters to fight for them. And you need to listen to what the people are actually saying out there, what they're feeling. And if you want to step into the arena and be a leader in this space, then by leading, you have to listen and not try to impose what you think is better, or listen to what people, be empathetic, fight for the people, champion the people, defend the people. That's to me the most important thing. And that often gets missed. And then to Brett, your point, there's the circling firing squad, which ultimately just leads to Trump and people like Trump. And it's so obvious that that's the logical conclusion of this. It's so self-defeating in any event. Take our last quick break of the show. A reminder, WTF America is the new book and the first book that I wrote with my brothers. It's called WTF America. You hit the QR code or scan the QR code and pre-order it right now. It helps with the pre-orders. So if you're able to pre-order it right now. We dedicated it to you, and it is something that we spent a lot of time working on, and I think it will be one of the, if not the kind of definitive book of this moment. And again, we were inspired by you to write it. We'll talk about it on our Patreon chat on Thursday. After the Thursday show, we'll go live on Patreon. So once that show ends, we'll immediately go live. And that's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. And we'll give a behind the scenes, how the book come about, what you can expect in the book, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's take our last quick break of the show. We'll be right back after this.
Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Here's the thing, thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. All that hidden bacteria in regular sheets, it can clog your pores and cause breakouts. Miracle Made's antibacterial design helps you sleep cleaner and clearer night after night. And they feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without that steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found pre-alcohol. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice the difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on having a great next day without worrying. Look, I won't lie, I was a bit on the fence about pre-alcohol initially, but after giving it a chance, believe me, it's the real deal. July is packed with barbecues, fireworks, lake weekends, and late nights with friends. Keep the good times rolling into the next day. Drink pre-alcohol before you go out and wake up ready for whatever Sunday brings. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off. Shout out to our sponsors, y'all. Links in description, both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, before I kick it back to you, I just wanted to build on that last conversation we had before break. And you're so right? Like politicians, man, they'll let you down. They will let you down. But if you put your heart and your energy and your time in upholding like a strong belief system, in the integrity of specific values, and using those as your North Star instead of a specific politician, you're going to feel better not only about yourself, but also about ultimately the decisions that then come forward from said politician, right? As long as you have a strong focus on what those values and ethos and core principles are, you can sleep well at night knowing that you know in your heart of hearts, it's not a person. No, these are a value system that I believe in, that we believe in, that will get you through the night. That will get you through the days. That will help keeping you, wanting to fight. Because again, politicians, people, they will eventually let you down. It's just the case.
One of the things with the Trump regime, though, is they engage in such horrific behavior that when they do something that would be big news at the beginning of the term, it kind of doesn't even become news anymore. Like, remember early on when Donald Trump threatened these massive tariffs against Canada and Mexico? I mean, remember in the very beginning of Trump's term, I'm even talking about before Liberation Day, they called it, which was Liquidation Day, which we know that was objectively a disaster. We know that manufacturing jobs have not been added, by the way. Since Trump took office, manufacturing jobs have decreased, whereas under former President Biden, manufacturing jobs have increased substantially, and we were having a manufacturing boom. But that was a big story, right? That would move the market because it was actually a big deal. Because by imposing the tariffs against Canada or Mexico, or when Trump threatened it against China, et cetera, that would result in higher costs passed on to the consumers. That would result in inflation. That would result in eventually interest rates going up when interest rates were expected to go down. And the markets are often described as, I view them as heavily manipulated by right-wing oligarchs, but also described as a future-looking indicator. And so the markets would price these things in, and it would be devastating because the impact is devastating. But you see, we're seeing the devastating impacts now on most American people, and a lot of this stuff is kind of shrugged off as whatever. And to me, that is even more disconcerting when you now make everything so numb, but the consequences are being felt. If you go to a doctor and you numb yourself, but there's still a trauma that's imposed to a certain area, you may be numb, but the thing still happens. And I think that there's been a numbing and a dumbing, but a numbing as a dumbing by the Trump regime, but also a numbing as well. And so last week, when there was 25% tariffs imposed on Brazil late at night by the Trump regime, it was just an announcement, 25% on most imports. Why? Because the Trump regime is working with Jair Bolsonaro's kid Flavio Bolsonaro. Jair's the former insurrectionist president of Brazil, did what Trump did on J6, but did it in Brazil. He's been put in prison for Brazil for basically the rest of his life, for 25, 30 years. His son Flavio is a politician running against Lula. So Trump and Flavio say, here's what we'll do. We'll shake down Brazil, harm the people of Brazil, also harm the people in America, because the tariffs still hurt the country of origin, because it makes people in the U.S. want to trade less with the people in Brazil, because you have to pay the tariff. The importer pays the tariff. So it impacts the whole trade relationship in general, which is often and usually, that's what tariffs can be used surgically in certain things. It's not always a bad thing, but it's usually a bad thing, and especially a bad thing how the Trump regime used it. But so the idea is we'll hurt Brazil, but only Flavio Bolsonaro can do it. So it's a tool to intrude on Brazilian sovereignty. And that's how it's being used there. And it's a tool to induce quid pro quos with Donald Trump. You got to pay Trump stuff, give him gold, give him this, give him that, and maybe he'll remove some of the tariffs against you if you personally enrich Donald Trump or enrich his family. So it's also, but by the way, did you even hear that as a story that registered? I mean, again, your coffee, your produce already going up. We get a lot of stuff from Brazil, and big deal, 25% across the board tariffs, but it didn't even really register as like a story. And of course, that's going to impact everything. And then Donald Trump today announces 50% tariffs on Canada, 50% on most Canadian products as well, and doing it in a very vindictive way. Like, I mean, of course, there's no non-vindictive way about it, but cars, alcohol, dairy, goods from wine, hockey sticks, you name it. And the justification is that Canada responded to the U.S. tariffs by imposing retaliatory measures, both formally and also the Canadian people, elbows up, said, we're not going to buy your liquor. If you're going to threaten our sovereignty, we don't want to buy your shit. We don't want to travel to your country. So our hospitality industry in the United States has been crushed. Go ask governors and politicians and leaders from states where there used to be a lot of Canadian travel, from Vegas to California to Maine to, to Michigan, you name it. Tourism is down significantly, and hospitality jobs with Donald Trump, no tax on tips. Well, you need to have customers for that to even be helpful. And there's been a lot of unemployment in the hospitality sector because of Donald Trump's attacks on Canada. And as we talked about earlier in this episode, Donald Trump's idea with Iran, which is predatorial, Epstein-class shit, disgusting predator stuff, is if we bomb you more, you're going to do a deal. The idea with Canada is if we attack you with tariffs, then you will want to do a better deal with us. You will want to help us. You will want to become the 51st state. You will bend the knee and you will submit. What is it actually demonstrated? Well, there are people, while there are Trump bootlickers in the media who have, oligarchs who have, when there are countries like Canada and others who say, no, we're not bending the knee, we're fighting. All this stuff does is further entrench the country against you. This isn't going to make Canadians say, how can we do a deal with you, sir? It's going to make Canada say, what can we do more to hurt you more? What can we do more? We're willing to make the sacrifice because for us, we stand for something. For Trump, he stands for nothing for Trump. So the United States falls for everything. Canada, they're standing for Canadian pride. And that's an important thing. And Trump doesn't understand that people could be fighting for things other than short-term transactional gain, where you have to be under the thumb of a maniac like Donald Trump.
It was a good comparison you made because it's so true. It's trying the same strategy to the same end. You're not going to get the Canadians to be like, oh, but now it's a 50% tariff. Okay, we give up. Okay, no. People are going to go, F you, dude. F you, we're going to double down, because the Canadians I know are fighters, right? They might seem nice and they are nice people, but do not cross them, because they will show you. And I will just show you, first off, let me just read one of the ridiculous things from this new tariff announcement from Ambassador Jameson Greer, who says here, because there's a ridiculous part I want to point out. He says that Canada, unlike other partners and allies, continues to retaliate against the United States for its efforts to rebalance trade and protect U.S. industry and national security sensitive sectors. Specifically, Canada has taken U.S. alcohol products off Canadian shelves. I'm struggling to see how that is a national security sensitive sector, the alcohol industry, but that's one of the main bases that Jameson Greer lists here for these new tariffs against the Canadian people. And I'll just read you, we reported on this earlier on our social media. I just want to read you, some of the comments, we'll see that I see here, because I think they show you the attitudes of Canadians. I know a lot of Canadians who watch and listen. Ray here says, as a Canadian, I think retaliation and retaliate are words to be proud of, because we have not knuckled under to Trump's demands. Then this Keitha says, this Canadian says, bring it on. Then you have a lot of people mocking Jameson Greer for the statement. Mike says, alcohol is now in our national security sector. Jeremiah says, Canada, Biden and Obama live rent-free in his mind, and it is hilarious. So they're mad that Canada doesn't bend the knee, and it goes on and on and on. I see instantly right here, and I know because we have such a good relationship with our Canadian audience, that this will have the opposite effect. Once again, like Donald Trump's things everything he does in Iran, it's going to have the opposite effect on the Canadian people, because unlike so many in our country, unlike so many in the Republican Party who bend the knee to Donald Trump every single day, the Canadians go elbows up instead. That's what they do. And that's what's going to happen here again. Donald Trump is a menace. He is a predator. He is going to continue to double down on these failed strategies. It reminds me of what Pete Hegseth said the other day when there was that flyover. What did he say? The flyovers will continue until the morale improves. First off, why is it in need of improvement, Hegseth? Why don't you answer that at first? Because I think that's a revealing statement in and of itself. But again, that's not a way to get people to do what you want. You don't continue the beatings until morale improves. You actually have to think thoughtfully and try to actually chart a path forward. And to do this also, as Donald Trump has done, with another justification of the wildfire smoke from Canada coming to the United States, is one of the most offensive, outrageous, disgusting things that I've ever heard a president say. And I know that there's a lot of disgusting things that this president has said, but to kick a country when they're down, when they are trying to put out these fires, when that country in question, Canada, rush to our defense whenever we have fires. Yep. When we had the fires here in LA, what did Canada do? They sent firefighters to help us. That's what a good neighbor does. When we had fires in the Colorado area, what did Canada do? They sent people here to help us, and a Canadian died fighting those fires in Colorado. And now Donald Trump has the nerve not to send help and actually figure out a way, how do we actually solve this problem, but to kick Canada and try to bully them like the predator that he is. That right there is shameful. Shameful behavior, disgusting behavior. Nobody should be okay with that.
Exactly. And look, and it's also what I always say is that Donald Trump is in this for himself and himself only. Like, yeah, Donald Trump didn't send help during those fires, but also, even if he was looking at it at like a selfish way, and selfish, I mean, I don't know, looking out for the American people, you think he would want to send help just knowing where the winds were blowing and how the United States would have been impacted. So even from a selfish level of helping the American people, he didn't care enough. He didn't care enough to, and so, sanctions now, sanctions. See, what frustrates me so much and like really worries me and actually keeps me up at night, if I could get candid here, is just the generational damage that Donald Trump has done to America, to this country, to its people. I think there's deep trauma that the American citizens are going to have to just kind of come to terms with and grapple with as this country sort of progresses and goes forward. Hopefully, we could be at a place where we maintain our democracy and, actually try and make some progress here in the near future. But what Donald Trump has done to us on a world stage, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I don't like being embarrassed. It feels like every day Donald Trump is embarrassing us, America, the American people, by what he says, by what he does, by the actions that he takes, by his failed leadership, by his incompetence, by his rambling. It is so beyond the pale that, I sit back and, brothers, you guys know I text you guys this stuff, and it just it keeps me up at night, and it really does frustrate me. And unfortunately, or fortunately, at least we're all going through this together, I guess is what I've come to, terms with here is at least if we're in it with a, community and pro-democracy coalition as great as the Meidas Mighty that are all seeing through this BS, that all see through Donald Trump's BS and how corporate media is manipulating and propagandizing its citizens. It doesn't make me sleep any better, but at least we're here together to call it out. And I do believe that there will be light at the end of the tunnel so long as we all continue to work for it. We can't just, sit on our hands and be like, oh, it's going to happen one day. We'll get out of this. That's not the mentality. We need to figure out how to actively continue to combat, this Trump regime, get the truth out, combat the propaganda, get the truth out as best as possible.
A few quick observations before we go, and we talk about this in WTF America, pre-ordered right now. Hit the QR code wherever the QR code is, and we talk about how MeidasTouch started during the early days of COVID when Donald Trump said, don't worry, the cases, there's only going to be 2 or 3 cases, like a miracle, it's all going to go away. It'll definitely be gone by Easter. It's never going to hit the shores. Then inject yourself with bleach and the same kind of feelings, right, of what's going to happen tomorrow. What the hell is he saying? What the F, right? That's what led to the founding of the MeidasTouch Network. This community, because that's what this network is, forging ahead together, changing the media landscape to prepare for moments like this and to prepare generationally in order to call this out and building the machinery to meet the moment and adapt. We're in a WTF moment. We've been in it for quite some time. And the parallels between how Trump didn't handle COVID and how he is disastrously handling a catastrophic and unlawful war he started, it directionally is very, very similar. It's why early on when he starts this war, we go, he's lying. This is never going to end. Maybe at the end of his term, maybe anytime there's going to be an MOU or don't trust it. It's not real. It's not going to happen. He's never going to be able. He pathologically can't. He's unable to. He's a loser. He's been a lifelong loser who bankrupted things over and over again. Look at this loser behavior. Today, the White House account posts overwhelming support for Iran peace deal. They cite big data poll, registered voters, and they say 60% of Americans support Iran peace deal. They posted that from the official White House account today as Donald Trump in his 10th day escalating the war. He's calling, U.S. officials are calling to Fox, we're going to be hitting the nuclear plan soon. We're going to be escalating even more. All out war is going on. And you're posting overwhelming support for the peace deal that you pulled out of and that you broke and that you're not moving towards a deal at all. I mean, who the hell's posting this thing? At the same time, while they're saying, okay, everything's going well, everything's going great. The strategic petroleum reserves. I know talking about strategic petroleum reserves sounds nerdy and geeky. Who cares? We should all care because we're at tank bottom right now. And what that means is while the data says crude oil stocks fell by 5.1 barrels last week to 311.4 million barrels, the lowest level since 1983. But in the past episodes where I showed you a visual of what the reserves actually look like, when you get to the lower parts of the reserves, it isn't a good quality and consistency of oil, of petroleum, of crude that can be refined. It's a different material, so it's harder to refine. We're at that stage right now where we're at a tank bottom stage. We'll soon be at a stage where there's no more, but it's this sludgy type of material now at the bottom that's harder to refine. And this is a big issue because there's going to be a day where it's going to be like, oh my God, now it's the same way with COVID. It went from 10 cases to 100 cases to 2,000 cases, to 20,000 cases, and then to thousands of deaths every day. And it's like, well, where did this happen? all this stuff is very clear if we just opened up our eyes. Final point I want to make before we go. And I hear Canadian viewers and listeners say this to us all the time, because you have U.S. media propagandists will say, well, in Canada, they don't have like the American dream. They don't have the Canadian dream. Ho, 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 ho. And then in Canada, they go, it's not a dream. We're awake. We see what's happening. There has been a Canadian dream because we're awake. We're alert. We know what's going on right now. And Trump looked at the United States and saw the American dream, and he said, got it. The American dream is something that's not obtainable. It is something that can be dangled. And the con artist, the lifelong fraud, liar, con artist, bankrupter, grifter said, if you can just dangle that dream that's always right around the corner, the GDP, it's going to be really good the fourth quarter of 2025. Nope. The second quarter of 2026. Nope. In 2027, it's going to be great. 2025, we set the stage. 2026, the banquet. 2027, it's right around the corner. Fort Knox has all of this gold. It's about to be reached. Don't worry, you're going to get rich. The Doge dividend checks, they're still coming right around the corner. All of the factories, that $19.1 trillion number that isn't true that Donald Trump makes up, all of these factories are going to be built. And we know that right now, it's just may seem difficult, but don't worry. Right around the corner, things are going to be excellent, and you're going to be so rich. You may get an invite to Mar-a-Lago. You may get to hang out at Bedminster. You may be rich, just like the Trump regime club. You may get to hang with them. You may get to do all one big fraud and lie. And we need to understand that this regime is malicious, incompetent, idiotic, and evil. That there are demons amongst us. There are true evil people at the leadership level and throughout this regime who want to hurt you, who want bad outcomes. As long as they're enriching themselves, they don't give a crap about this country. They don't give a crap about you. In fact, they relish in your suffering because they view everything as a zero-sum game. Their happiness can't be satiated by all of the riches they already have. That doesn't quench their thirst for more. No, it only ends when they see you suffering. That's how they feel they've made it. They're sickos and they want to hurt you. That's the reality of, and they are hurting you. That's what's happening. And I don't care what political party you're from, what the label is, this, that, I'm more center left, I'm more center, I'm more independent. If you don't understand fundamental truths about what the hell is happening, about the existential moment that we are really in right now, then get the hell out and don't even be involved in this to begin with at all. This ain't a game. Americans are suffering. Americans are dying. People in the world are suffering and dying. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. So I'll leave you with that. Brett and Jordy, anything else you want to say?
Well said. No, I want to thank for everybody, for tuning in every single day. I'm excited to be able to chat with you this Thursday. Those who are on Patreon or want to sign up for Patreon at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We got a lot to speak about. I'm excited to speak about everybody about the book too. It's obviously been like a big kind of secret project that we've been doing in between. Every little nook and cranny, every single kind of free minute that we've had has gone to writing this book, but we're really proud of it, really proud of it. And so, apologies if you're like, you're talking about the book again. I know, I get it. Listen, it's been a labor of love. And so I've been wanting to speak about it with you for so long. And now we have the opportunity. I've seen some questions. It's available right now in all of North America. And so, Canada, should be Mexico also. If you're in North America, you should be able to go to the link that either this QR code that's on the screen or the link in the description to the video or podcast. And you should be able to pre-order it. And pre-orders are so important for books. So this is the time right now. And then we're also looking into getting it into some of the other countries in Europe and things like that. So more to come on that. But we are grinding. I want to make a statement here. I want to thank you for everyone's support. I want to thank you for also your just resilience every single day. The fact that you're just like paying attention, throughout all of this chaos, I think just shows how resilient and how strong everybody who listens to the show is. I know how much you really care about whether it's the United States or the world or your families. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in. I'm so grateful to consider you part of the Meidas Mighty. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.